I thought pick was another four-letter word when I first saw it. Are we on
Anyways,
YouTube?
the makeup
Yes.
with Stephanie. I put a
Wow.
lip stain on. I know I'm
Wow.
really getting into this now. And I got this adorable little. Look at this. What does it look like?
It looks like a medicine container, but to
Or
me,
a coffee. A little
oh,
coffee
it's a
cup.
mini coffee.
But
Okay.
it's a little chapstick.
Wow.
How cute.
No, look, doesn't it kind of look like a mini medicine?
It does. Well, now that you say it, yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
what.
look at there's like the little straw thing.
Yeah, I
the
see
little
it
poke
now.
thing.
Yeah, but I mean, usually because your medicines usually have the white top with the twisty thing that you can't get off,
Or a cute coffee cup.
or a cute coffee
It
cup.
looks like a coffee cup.
on
Don't
that.
ruin it.
There we are with that awesome intro music coming in with that absolutely fabulous slide guitar coming in on here on a Wicked Wednesday. On that, we're up on both YouTube now and IE Newswire, Facebook Live on that. Coming up at 5:30, we'll be sliding in with the Mighty Met 1490 KMET as we make the transition to the AM world, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire. And as we say, and beyond, when we're here on the net, where you can get us 24/7 hour on your smartphone, computer, or whatever device you got hooked up, that on the World Wide Web. Nobody uses that anymore.
What?
Remember, when computers and stuff first on that, I mean, www World Wide Web, that used to be a very popular. People used to actually say the three words World Wide Web.
You know what? I never even knew what www.
Like, that's really surprising.
I don't know why I admit to half the crap I do
Yeah.
when we're on. But oh wow, really?
Yes.
I thought you were just
You
making
didn't.
crap up.
No, you really didn't. No, the WWW really stands for World Wide Web. That's what it would.
Well, that makes sense. I always thought like the stupid. Do I really have to push on the stupid www? We passed that already? I mean, but now we're past it. And now I know what the damn thing means. Makes no sense.
See the wonderful wealth of knowledge you have being on this show.
Yeah. It's great.
Pretty soon
Love
we'll call
it.
you Professor Stephanie. You'll be so knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be a walking encyclopedia.
That'd be nice. And if I can make the salary of a professor too, that would even be better. Or even half.
Don't get me
A quarter?
started on that. Yeah, a quarter of the professor's salary would be like a raise way for most people significantly, because those honchos flat pack down the dollars, and that's another reason why our university systems went in the tank. But that's a subject for another day. In the news, a little sad news in there. Kirk Douglas, the longtime legendary actor, passed away today at 103. Was,
103?
Yes, he was.
Good for him.
He was 103. I think he made an appearance like about a year ago or so. His son Michael, his son Michael Douglas, which was also a pretty famous actor, he released that today. And I think it was some 70 years ago when he was first nominated for an Academy Award. So, I mean, he had an absolutely stellar career in film, movies, and entertainment on that. And one of the good guys across the board of the.
But you know what? I think I'm
the
thinking of
industry.
somebody else.
Well, that's quite possible. There's
No.
Kurt and Michael Douglas.
I was thinking Michael Douglas.
Yeah, Michael Douglas. That's his
Probably
son.
why.
He's not 103
No, that's why I was like, how is he 103?
of that.
But good for him, though. That's
Yes.
awesome. I mean, it's sad to see him go. Obviously,
Right.
I know his
There
family's
ain't that
probably
many
hurting, but
people that. Yeah,
103?
that's pretty awesome to do that and make it
Yeah.
for anything to make it up in that range. But,
Very handsome man.
he passed away again today at 103 of that. So rest in peace, Kirk Douglas.
Yeah.
Couple more, just a little coronavirus update. Couple more flights come in. They didn't come into March. I wonder why. They went up to up north to Travis Air Force Base, and I think down to Miramar on that. Couple of flights coming in, and I think now which they should have done with the first flight, is the people coming in are under a mandatory 14-day quarantine. So, which they should have done in the March situation instead of letting it get out. And one of the reasons why I did it or did that and pointed that out is to emphasize to the powers to be or those in charge of putting out the information, just get the accurate information out and do the policies that make sense. They should have, on that first flight that was coming in, they should have said, yeah, it's coming from Ontario, it's going to March because of X, Y, and Z, and the people will be there. We are going to put them under a 14-day quarantine. They're not going to leave. We're going to monitor them until we determine that it's safe. Instead of, well, everybody's free to go, and then somebody tries to leave, and then they put the 14-day quarantine on, and they're not saying why they did this. Then somebody gets hauled to the hospital. That people are writing in on that, well, doesn't March have a hospital? No, that's a pile of rubble under some of the roads that you're driving because it's that empty for, I think it hadn't been used for 20 years, and finally, like 10 years ago, they tore it down and crushed it all up and made road base for underneath your roads, asphalt and concrete that you drive on the roads every day. So people kind of assume things of what's going on of that, but that's the latest coronavirus update coming in on that. And, the numbers keep getting bigger in China. Who knows what's going on over there? I mean, you're hearing reports that it's, a lot of people are dying of it over there, and they're having all kinds of trouble with it. Hopefully it doesn't outbreak because the flu's dangerous. I mean, I think thousands of people die even in the United States every year just of the regular flu.
Right.
And when they're saying, well, this is kind of an odd strain or a strain we don't really know how to deal with, it has the potential to be a serious situation. So that's the latest coming in on that. 2 more flights coming in on that, and there you go. But the 2 big stories, and after the show last night, we had at 6 o'clock PST, Pacific Standard Time, El Presidente, Donald Trump, gave his State of the Union.
Thank you, Joshua, for noticing that.
What did Joshua notice?
Our calendar says January, and we have Valentine's decorations up. We just wanted to see if anybody noticed, and you did. So good job, Josh. You won nothing. What do we have for Josh?
What do we have for Josh? Maybe we'll throw him a box of Girl Scout.
You got a box of Thin Mints, Josh,
or something.
And you get to come change my calendar because now it's going to drive me insane. This entire stream.
But no, it was a State of the Union. Great, like we said, and the presidents always say that the state of our union is strong, and it really is. But of the first controversy, and we'll deal with the second controversy too, and we'll have Susan Shelley coming up at the bottom of the hour when we do that, not only to get her take on these 2 items, but her normal, very scholarly and very interesting columns that she usually has up to in the Press Enterprise and various newspapers around. But the whole dynamic of what was going on, and I mean, the whole thing with Nancy Pelosi, and roll IE Newswire up and roll the Pelosi stuff I have up on there. I mean, the whole thing, what got it started is as Trump gets to the end of the speech, and voila, what is Nancy Pelosi? Because Nancy Pelosi, they have copies of the speech beforehand or what's going on the teleprompter. So they kind of, so they have advanced copies or they know what's coming on, da-da-da-da-da. And she up and just rips into the paperwork of Donald Trump's State of the Union speech. Roll up, and I've got another one. That's the second. That's the second one. The other way. When I say up, that's when I mean up. That's when I mean up. So so you know, that might not be up for everybody.
We go through this every time.
Yes, that's why I'm saying when I say up, that's the direction I want you to roll the thing up. But keep going. You haven't hit it yet. Of the one I don't think of the one I posted. Keep going. There you go. Pelosi's low class move. Blow up the picture if you can. there you have her. She's ripping the speech in two. Not only that, she was making scowling faces all behind, not applauding, no nothing. I mean, just totally disrespectful of the office of the President of the United States. Now, Nancy could just, if she, and it seems to be the dynamic has been reported. Those two, Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump, hate each other's guts. Fine and dandy. You might think he's the world's worst person. He might think you're the squirrels of the earth. Whatever. They both have positions, very high positions in the United States government. Trump is the president, commander-in-chief. Anybody in that office deserves respect. Same with the Speaker of the House. They are representing all of us as the United States of America. And especially in this instance, Nancy Pelosi is the presiding officer over a joint meeting of Congress with the Senate where the president gives the State of the Union, which I believe is constitution, not necessarily State of the Union, but once a year the president has to address Congress of what's going on in the country. So it's a tradition of that, and there's been protocols set up that the Speaker of the House runs the meeting, introduces the president, our esteemed president, and I didn't look for it, but there's a standard way that the president's been introduced, and she didn't even do that. So go back to the other one that's towards the beginning of the timeline on IEN of that. None other than Jonathan Turley, law professor, constitutional expert, has testified or representative of both of our lifetimes impeachment hearings, the Clinton and the Trump one. And lo and behold, he writes a column this morning produced in The Hill, which is a very esteemed publication in Washington, D.C. that covers everything as Washington, D.C. or Capitol Hill, in that area where the White House and Congress is at, is kind of a slang term. It's called The Hill. So he writes, this is what Jonathan Turley, and Jonathan Turley is not part of the vast right-wing conspiracy. He's voted for Hillary. He's left of center in his politics. He makes no bones about it. He's on TV, as a commentator a lot. You've seen most people, political junkies, have seen him a lot. Let's put it that way. Nancy Pelosi should resign as a headline. Those are and I wrote on the piece on IEN. Those are not my words. Those are the headlines on his. Although I do agree with those. Jonathan Turley is a public policy constitutional expert and Shapiro Professor of Public Policy for Law at George Washington University, a very prominent university in the Washington, D.C. area. Turley wrote, the conduct of Speaker Nancy Pelosi at the State of the Union address this week will go down as a day in infamy for the chamber in that institution. And he went on to do the same thing about the mocking of the faces and all the whole stuff. I mean, there's a set decorum and protocol for this meeting. Nancy Pelosi thumbed her nose at the whole enchilada. And she is supposed to be representing us, the American people, the United States of America, not only to the American people, but to the world. They're looking at this. So I agree, and many others agree, Pelosi should resign. If you cannot set aside your personal differences and represent not only yourself, but your duly elected duty, not only as a congresswoman, but as Speaker of the House, if you cannot set that aside, your personal feelings for Donald Trump, and try and make a mockery of the system, you need to go. And it shows to me the personality, the insanity, the ridiculousness, the outright deception that those on that are calling or trying to make themselves purer than the wind-driven snow We don't do that. We're all for you. Free, free, free. We're going to provide for you. While they're doing this sort of stuff publicly, imagine what they're doing to you when you're not watching. What do you say?
Well, I would like to read a couple comments.
Read a couple comments.
Okay. Josh writes in, Thin Mints are the best. Correct. They are. Juan writes in, they are both low class, they both hate each other, and they are both wrong. Not done yet. And then Nestor writes in, can you talk about Trump's campaign aide that was recently arrested for being a pedophile?
I didn't know that. And if he is, I hope he's convicted to the fullest extent of the law if he's guilty.
And then Josh writes in, they should send her to Mexico so she can make it a sanctuary country.
You know, I'd agree with that. And there's again, and it come up, and we've got the clip of that. That's a good time to play the clip I've got, because California and the sanctuary city came up in the State of the Union address. And criminal illegal aliens came up in there to the sanctuary city. And what has happened in our area of that today, of that, and why it is important to not do catch and release, not when our local agencies in California, SB 54, the sanctuary state of California, which says you can't notify ICE or the federal government or FBI if you're holding criminal illegal aliens. You got to let them walk out of there without telling anybody of that. There are dire, deathly consequences to that. And it was emphasized in the State of the Union speech. So Jesse's got it now up there. So let this clip roll from the State of the Union speech on Donald Trump. Go.
He hijacked a truck and smashed into vehicles, critically injuring innocent victims. One of the victims is a terrible, terrible situation. Died, 51-year-old American named Rocky Jones. Rocky was at a gas station when this vile criminal fired 8 bullets at him from close range, murdering him in cold blood. Rocky left behind a devoted family, including his brothers, who loved him more than anything else in the world. One of his grieving brothers is here with us tonight. Jody, would you please stand? Jody, thank you. Jody, our hearts weep for your loss, and we will not rest until you have justice. Senator Tom Tillis has introduced legislation to allow Americans like Jody to sue sanctuary cities and states when a loved one is hurt or killed as a result of these deadly practices. I ask Congress to pass the Justice for Victims of Sanctuary Cities Act immediately. The United States of America should be a sanctuary for law-abiding Americans, not criminal aliens. In the last 3 years, ICE has arrested over 5,000 wicked human traffickers, and I have signed 9 pieces of legislation to stamp out the menace of human trafficking domestically and all around the globe. My administration has undertaken an
there you go. Oh, well, how could you possibly make the case for releasing someone like that that's going to take the life and ruin American families' lives, take their loved ones from them when this is fully preventable? We've had Agnes Gibney, mom of that, Sabine Durnan, on the show that lost Dominic from Moreno Valley to the same type of situations. got a friend, fortunately didn't kill him, but injured him for life by being, being hit by an illegal alien. I mean, what is the insanity that's in California when this stuff is preventable? I wish I did too.
I mean, I get where you want to help people that need help. I do. I feel for people that are struggling. But like you said, I mean, how do you allow someone to come in that has that mentality that wants to go out and hurt your loved ones? I mean, that's just wrong. And I want to read his comment. Sanctuary cities should be removed. One dead person is enough.
One dead person is one too many.
Exactly.
It's why we have a process.
Or even hurt. Doesn't need to be dead.
For immigration. And those who do not follow it are automatically breaking our laws. Right off the get-go. I don't care how good of people they are or whatever. We can argue that, and they've been here, and we have a process of doing that, and this is why. And we've let it go far too long. We've had these arguments and stuff. It's really distressing that we have to look to the federal government or something to pass nationwide legislation to get rid of this stuff, or potentially in California when we can't do it ourselves. The whole mess has been made, and yeah, we do need to fix that, and there are a lot of component problems to that. But I do not understand how you make the case, and let's set all the other stuff aside, when we have those who have broken at least a second law in the United States and committed additional crimes in the United States while not being a citizen, how when they are in the custody of our local officials, we cannot inform the federal government, ICE, and anyone else of where they are at when they're breaking the secondary law of being in this country illegally. That makes no sense. There is no coherent argument I can think of that you can make for that case. And as long as that component is sitting out there, you're never going to get any resolution to any of the other part, because this is just going to be a contentious issue right like it is right now. I mean, how do you look Rocky and his family in the face and say, oh, well, we were really proud that we let that guy out that killed your brother? I mean, tell me how you do. I want you to look at Sabine Durden, who's been on the show, and tell her, look her in the eye and tell her, why you think the man that killed her son should have been out? He'd been deported many times, was like just a little bit under the influence, but had been deported on drunk driving charges many times, been deported 2 or 3 times, came back, da-da-da-da. She lost her only son over that in a traffic accident here in Marina Valley.
That's horrible.
I mean, it's I don't know what to say other than I don't understand the logic that they have of the sanctuary state law or sanctuary cities or anything like that.
Right.
It's mind-boggling to me that we even get to this, that we're even at this point, that we're even talking about this. And we have to see these examples, and it's still it's even a debatable addition. And you have like Libby, whatever the nutcase mayor is up in Oakland, when ICE was going to, because if they're coming in, they see, they're giving the locals a heads up on that, and she's out saying, "Oh, they're coming, hi, da 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 da." I mean, what do you do in those? I mean, the logic again. I just can't wrap my head around that.
Well, it does seem like Trump is going to, hopefully, if he stays around, which I think he will be changing that from that speech. I mean, I think that was amazing, too, that in that speech he called up the brother and recognized him.
So that's and we'll get into the next part of it, the acquittal of Donald John Trump. See,
The who?
the president of the United States.
No, I know that. Really quick, I want to read out Patricia's comment because I think you might like it. She put, "I love my president 4 more years." I thought you were going to yell yes or something. I'm surprised you didn't. I was kind of waiting for it.
And I mean, I'm kind of in a
you're in like a sad, depressed tone right now.
That clip right there really got me to thinking about the whole thing that's going on.
Right.
Because I don't understand the hate. You see it in Moreno Valley. You see it on IEN. You see look at the comments of where I'm posting the stuff, or Moreno Valley Politics Matters, or any blog, site, whatever you've got on the deal. And I don't understand the 100% hate for Trump when he's doing these things. But we have a caller on the thing.
I think that was a beautiful thing. I loved it.
Yes.
It's sad seeing him stand up and crying. But.
Yes, it's his brother, a big guy, and he's, you could see the emotion in it.
Everybody hurts the same, though.
So what do you say, Pop?
Not a whole lot. I went through a lot of that many back. You know the whole story about what happened way back in '54. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about was the response from the Democrat that responded to Trump's deal, and she went on and on about Democrats doing everything about they're the hope and all this other things. And she was talking about fix the roads and we get health care and all and prescription drugs. If they just took the money that they have tried to impeach Trump from the day they started till now, we could have fixed 3 or 4 bridges, a whole lot of streets, and everything else. But who got rich? The lawyers and the politicians by fighting amongst themselves. But nobody wants to talk about that.
Yes, that's a sad thing. Look at all well, not necessarily. You can kind of run that reverse. At least they're not hosing us with most of the stuff like they've been doing with us. But yeah, in a perfect world, they should be doing the business of the United States of America, which is the people of the 330 million people that they are representing up there. Just like Pelosi was representing us up there. And she's making the pouty faces behind there and then culminates it with the non-traditional, very disrespectful introduction, not following the protocol, and then ending it with the ripping of the speech. And if there's anything more afterwards, the reporters asked it, and she said that was something to the effect was that was not really what I wanted to say, but and kind of left it at that. Like I think what she really wanted to do was give him the middle finger, but, I mean...
Well, that's it. She didn't introduce him right and everything else that started it and go... But what I was going to talk about, she wouldn't stand for the little girl.
Yes.
She wouldn't stand for the general, and she wouldn't stand for the black guy that became a contractor. So much for the Democratic Party sitting there for the minorities. She wouldn't even stand up for them people, and they tell you how bad the white Republican is.
Yes.
And she sat there and ripped everyone. You got to remember, by ripping them papers up, she ripped up every one of them black people's name and threw it on the desk. That's how much respect she had for so much for her Democratic Party that's supposed to be for the minorities. That was sad. She wouldn't even stand for the little girl that is probably pretty smart. Or the guy, the general, over 100 years old.
I bet she didn't stand for Rocky Jones, the man who lost his brother to a criminal act of an illegal alien.
I don't remember. Probably not. She was up there reading and not paying attention and doing everything. But she did scold. Did you notice that she scolded one of her people that yelled out that one time? Boy, she pointed at them and shook her head and got really nasty. That was the best one. Everybody's not talking about that one. Yeah, she scolded one of her people when Trump was talking. He yelled back something nasty, and she shook her finger at him and everything. I thought that was kind of neat. But other than that,
yeah, it was that whole thing, and everybody's doing the slide. We got about 30 seconds for a transition over, so I'm gonna have to let you go to get Susan Shelley on.
Ahead.
But that was, and there's talking about, well, Trump didn't shake her hand. Well, if you've ever been there or something, the speaker's stand is about 6 foot under the deal. And it's very possible Trump did not see her as he's walking up there, because he would have had to look way up to see her doing that. And so they're kind of trying to use that as justification for Nancy Pelosi. And even if that was the case, where if the Democrats are supposed to be so high and mighty, why did they have to stump to Trump's level? Why aren't they setting the example that we're above it? No, they notched it 20 steps below.
He didn't shake Pence's hand either.
He didn't shake Pence's hand, as Sean told us, either of that. So
Thanks, Sean,
I'm saying he probably didn't see them as he's walking up to there, because he would have had to raise his hand up. But thanks a lot for calling in, Pop. I think, or we got rid of him. Okay, but yeah, we're rolling in here to KMET.
How long do we got, Sean?
How long do we got?
We're about a minute out.
Oh, we're a minute out. Okay.
Josh writes in, I don't think it's so much hate. I think it's more brainwash than anything. Back to your comment.
No, it's hate. It's absolute hate. You should go. We should go to Moreno Valley Politics. We've had Amber Rochelle on this show.
Carlos writes in.
How
Pelosi
many times
knows
does she say F Trump every day at nauseum?
Call people's names. Anyways, Carlos writes in, Pelosi knows
Trump
is a
1 minute.
beta male.
He did what?
Pelosi knows that Trump is a beta male. Carlos writes that in.
Yeah.
Josh writes, can't shake hands with a snake, just saying.
I hope he's calling I mean, the snake is Nancy Pelosi. I mean, that was it. Let's put it reverse. If Trump would have been making those faces and Nancy Pelosi was giving that speech, it would be so far over the dominant media you couldn't. They would stop the press. You wouldn't hear music on the radio or nothing.
30 seconds.
That would be
30
24/7, 365, mandatory on every news outlet, broadcasting station, and everything else. The hypocrisy of this whole stuff is just absolutely mind-boggling on this stuff. We're going to be joined. I've said it. It's the war against a straight white male. We keep doing it. And if we keep allowing it, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. And if we keep this stuff up, one thing, the hate will never stop.
Here we go. Is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
I need that music back in to pick my mood back up and get me on that fired back up, because we're back on now. We're transitioning into IA Newswire Daily on the Mighty Met 1490 KMET on a Wicked Wednesday.
I forgot what we were going with.
on that. We talked about a little bit of the local news and stuff, the coronavirus update, the passing of very esteemed and very revered actor Kirk Douglas passed away today at 103 of that. So we're our condolences to the family. Kirk Douglas was a great actor on that. But we talked a little bit, quite a bit about most of the hour about the State of the Union speech and all that. We're gonna have Susan Shelley on here in a minute, our regular weekly guest who's on there. But I want to switch gears on Dave, because today's big news was the acquittal of Donald John Trump, 45th President of the United States, on the articles of impeachment that and I'm not going to call them what I the House of Representatives sent up to the Senate. The Senate today acquitted Donald Trump of both articles of impeachment, abuse of power, and treason over that. So, not that it's going to be over, but at least finality is that the trial is over. The president has been acquitted. There is no impeachment, and that whole issue is done, gone, and forgotten. Well, not forgotten. It should be laid to rest. You gave it your best shot. You threw your, you placed your bets, and you lost. Those of you, Schiff and Nadler and stuff, that were pushing this whole impeachment fraud in that, because there was no way that he was getting they even made a close enough case over all of the whole enchilada of the votes. They only got one vote on one article in the Senate by Willard Mittens Romney to convict on the Republican side, to convict the president on that. Everything else was basically done on a pure partisan basis. And thank God, in 1776, the founding fathers of this country, and I think it's Andrew Jackson who wrote the Federalist Paper, which was a prelude to how they're putting together the Constitution. And that's what he said in Federalist 65, when they're designing the process in case you have to remove a judge or a president or something because of the unique situation or powers they have. He said this cannot be a partisan political process, and that's why ultimately it was given to the most deliberative body in that the history of the world has ever known, the United States Senate, and to make sure if they were removing somebody, it was not partisan. They said they had to have a 2/3 majority, or 67 senators in this case, to remove, and I think the best they got was 48, 19 votes short of doing that. So the process worked. This is the beauty of the Constitution of the United States of America. The absolute 100% best supreme document that has ever been built in the history of the recorded world to run a society. And if anybody disputes that, they can call in, do that or that. But we're going to bring in, as we said, our longtime guest, who is editorial writer for the Press Enterprise, Redlands Daily Facts, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, and a gazillion newspapers all across Southern California, but more important, in my view, Vice President of Howard Harvest Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to IE Newswire Daily with Stephanie and Roy.
Well, hi, Roy, and hi, Stephanie. Great to be with you.
Hey, Susan.
So, what's your take on you heard my little rendition of what happened today on impeachment? What's your take on the situation?
Well, I'm just glad they're done with it, because they could have dragged this out for 6 months. They could have held everything up in the Senate while they did this ridiculous, overstated nonsense. I mean, when they were reading the charges, the full articles of impeachment on the floor of the Senate today, it just sounded cartoonish. Oh, he's such a danger to the country. He's a danger to the Constitution. And unless he's removed, he's a threat to the security of the United States. Ridiculous. And the whole thing was so transparently political, and the timing was so transparently political. They had to get these charges done by Christmas because they had to get this into everybody's hands before the primaries started. And it was just so pointless. What a waste of everyone's time. What a bunch of negative energy for nothing. But the irony is, it seems to have removed not Donald Trump, but Joe Biden. All this terrible publicity about himself and Hunter and all this running around saying, nobody's asking me that question, don't ask me that question, there's no truth to it. He just looks so guilty. And you'd see this on the news, and then you think, well, I don't know what this is, but every time somebody asks about it, the guy practically has a seizure. And the next thing you know, 4th place in Iowa. So that's a Democratic firing squad, if ever you've seen one. Trump walks away, and Biden's on the floor.
If there was ever a stamp before karma. We just saw it play out. Practically everything that they accused Donald Trump, fixing elections, colliding with the Russians, yada, 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 yada. And then what happens just before, the day before, 2 days before, the acquittal of Trump on these charges that the Democrats were so all fired sure that Trump had done and all this other nonsense that was going on, which if there was any collusion was with the Russians, it was in the Hillary Clinton camp in 2016, but let's set that aside. The chaos at the caucuses in Iowa stamps karma to a T. Because if the Democrats cannot run an election statewide in the city of Iowa, or in the state of Iowa, on that, and have a absolute disaster. You want to talk about, you could frame some conspiracy theories to Mayor Pete involved with going money back and forth, and all of a sudden the records are getting wiped out, and Biden's getting in fourth when he should have won, and he's mad, and da-da-da-da-da. Like I said, if there was ever a reason to believe in karma, or that is, this whole situation should prove that.
Well, you know what it really looks like is the Democratic Party is afraid of Bernie Sanders' supporters. They don't have the guts to run against him and say these ideas are going to destroy the country if he becomes president. They don't have the guts to do that. They're pandering to all the people who support him. So they say, well, we think that this is all wonderful, and we're all for Medicare for all, and we're all for this climate change nonsense, and we're all for this, and we're all for that, we're all for socialism. And then they try and hide the results to keep him from getting a headline that he's the winner in Iowa. Because that's what it sure looks like they're doing. They still haven't released all of it. You know, there's fewer voters in this caucus than there are in like one assembly district in the Los Angeles area, or anywhere in California. So this is just silly that they can't count it and they can't release it.
Yeah, I think the whole population of Iowa is equal to about Orange County or Riverside County, about 2.5.
Really?
Yes, the whole population. That's the equivalent.
Go to Iowa.
They couldn't count the votes in Riverside County and run it. That's how simple this is. But I want to get before we get into your columns, and we spent a lot of the first half hour talking about the State of the Union address and Pelosi's little pouty face, not introducing the president per protocol, and then ending up at the end ripping the speech into right as at the end of the address, and none other than Jonathan Turley, not part of the vast right-wing conspiracy, a law professor at George Washington University and one of our premier constitutional scholars, has said Nancy Pelosi should resign. She's not only disrespected herself, the office of the Speaker of the House, but disrespected the entire population of 330 Americans, which she was supposed to represent on a constitutionally called meeting of that, and she disrespected from start to finish the President of the United States.
It's really unforgivable, you know, because he is the President. She's the Speaker of the House. These are constitutional functions. The President has to deliver a State of the Union message to the House of Representatives. And as the Speaker, she has to accept that. That's part of the tradition and the law of the country, part of the founding charter of the country. And to use that moment on television to show, without words, that she just spits on the whole administration, and by wider implication, all of the people who support President Trump, all the people who are going to vote for him, she was really spitting at them, at all of us, and it's really unforgivable. It's just crass, small-time, machine politics types of tactics. You know, using a television moment to get that next headline, that next hit on MSNBC, that next "Ooh, we love you" from Rachel Maddow, or one of the other liberal pundits. It's so small. And Trump's speech was so big. You know, he was on the big themes of freedom and individual rights and American greatness and achievement and the history of the country and vanquishing tyranny and socialism and fascism and going to Mars and curing diseases. He was on all the big issues and honoring people for their life's work. And then she's just doing this petulant little, I want my 30 seconds on MSNBC moment. It's just sad.
It was. And to kind of dovetail into that, because one of your editorials this week was, will California follow in Iowa's election botching footsteps? Tell me what's in store for California.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, we are in for a mess. You know, a couple of years ago, the state legislature passed Senate Bill 450, the Voters' Choice Act. And this set in motion a whole bunch of changes, including we ended up with, there's more laws that passed afterwards. We ended up with same-day voter registration at all polling places, vote centers instead of local precincts. Some counties are mailing ballots to every voter. We're going to have more of this technological whiz-bang stuff like Iowa had. For instance, we're going to have electronic poll books instead of paper rosters. Well, in L.A. County, there's 5.5 million registered voters, and they can go anywhere to almost 1,000 vote centers, and there will be no paper rosters. Everybody gets checked in on the electronic poll book, which is on a secure private network. That's what they say, a secure private network to the Secretary of State's voter database. Now, even if California had a good history with its big technological projects, and it doesn't, this is a very chancy thing to do, because if you get 1 million people in line to vote on Election Day and the system crashes, they can't vote. They literally can't vote. There's no way to check them in. You can't do provisional ballots for 1 million people. Maybe they'll try, but it's going to be incredibly slow, very difficult. The whole system could crash so badly on Election Day that we have to re-vote. We have to completely redo the election, which I think would be kind of funny because we moved the primary from June to March. Fortunately, this gives us time to move it back from March to June and do it again.
There you go. And I mean, wouldn't it be so? I mean, maybe not maybe not as big a debacle as they had in Iowa. But can you imagine here in what it's, I think, less than 30 days now, we're going to be voting in California on that. And what if this actually does freaking explode here in California like that? I mean, that it's one thing Iowa, 2-something million population, but what if this happens in the biggest state in the United States with almost 40 million people?
Well, it's going to be a catastrophe. I mean, it's really going to hold up the whole country while we reorganize and revote. And there's so many things that could go wrong here because we've changed so many things at once, and we're all doing this essentially without any dress rehearsal. We have not stress tested under real-world conditions this entire system. So it's going to be very chancy. In LA, we have these new ballot marking devices, which are like touch screens, and apparently there's a problem. They're trying to make everything. They want every voting station to be accessible to anyone with any kind of disability. So instead of 1 or 2 off to the side that are for people who have visual handicaps of one sort or another, every one of these things will have extra large print, which means that if there are more candidates that sit on the first screen, people are going to have to scroll to see all the candidates. Well, maybe they won't quite figure that out, and maybe that disadvantages the people who are 5 through 10 on a list of candidates in the primary because they're not on the first screen. Sort of like Google search results. You're never going to see it. So that could be a problem. And I believe Beverly Hills has filed a lawsuit. They're upset about how this is going to work in L.A. County, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, that'll be something we'll really be watching here in a little bit. Like I say, less than 30 days. I think voting actually starts today in California, which is something I really don't like the 30-day whole deal of that. That just really complicates things. And even in my mind, the whole 30 days of allowing absentee ballots really opens the process up to all kinds of fraud deals, but we'll get into that later. I want to touch on your other column because we've talked about it, and there was that very famous video of the dad that that worked hard, paid for his kids' college, and said, "Well, you, Liz Warren, you're just gonna all those that partied hardy and got $50, $80, $100,000, you're gonna let them go, and you're not gonna cancel my debt. How does that work?" Your column is in the PE. Warren's confiscatory student debt plan draws needed backlash, and what is that backlash?
Well, the backlash is from all the people who did the right thing, all the people who didn't take on more debt than they could repay or didn't take on any debt at all, and the people who told their kids, sorry, you can't go to this school, you have to go to that school, even though the first school might give you better career opportunities. We can't pay that back if you borrow that money. So we want you to go here. All the people who made those choices and did the right and responsible thing, they're out of luck. Because Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, they're going to just wipe out student debt as if everyone who took on debt had no control over the decision. And it was just some sort of random natural disaster that happened to some people and not others. But it isn't. And then what happens if you do this? What are you incentivizing down the road? You're incentivizing people to expect that there will be another bailout of student debt, which means that everybody's going to say, I'm taking on as much debt as I can to go wherever I want, to do whatever I want. I'm not paying it back, and I'm just going to hold a sign at the rally and wait for the bailout.
Yeah.
And, where is the money going to come from? Well, Elizabeth Warren says it's going to come from a 2% wealth tax on 75,000 families who have more than $50 million. Now, that might not even be constitutional because I'm not sure there's any basis to just tax somebody's wealth at the federal level that way. I'm not sure if that would hold up. But even if it did hold up, the money's not going to just sit in an account and wait to be grabbed. People with $50 million have options, and they're going to take advantage of it, and there will be plenty of lawyers and accountants who will help them, and consultants and everyone else, and that money's going to be in Ireland, or it's going to be in Switzerland, or it's going to be somewhere. And so where's the money going to come from for the bailout? It's going to come out of your check, my check, everybody's paycheck. And we will be subsidizing the risk decisions that people outside our own family made. While our own family members didn't make those decisions, didn't take those risks, our money and their money is going to be subsidizing the people who got in over their heads. And that's just immoral. That will always be immoral.
Yes. Is that the signal? I wonder if they think, well, I know they think that, I'm pretty sure they think they think these things through, but they really think that they're, ultimately, this is the signal that they want to say is, you idiots that went out there and worked and paid for it and sacrificed and didn't buy the new car, didn't go on vacations with your student loans and whatever you did and partied hardy and tipping the can or buying cocaine or whatever the heck you were doing with the stuff. Because how do you rack up $80,000, $100,000 worth of debt? But you that went out there and struggled or waited tables or sacrificed or didn't buy those things and that and worked your butt off to get your degree, and you got that, or you had to borrow money or sacrifice to do that, to get to that point, you know what? You get to pay, like you said, you get to pay for yours, and you get to pay for the people that screwed off for 4 years on your dime. That's what that's a signal they want to send?
That's what they want to say. And this is very similar to what happened just before that Tea Party rally started in 2009. There was a proposal for the government to bail out homeowners who were in foreclosure or at risk of foreclosure. But many of those people had bought more than one house. They were going to flip houses. They had installed huge kitchens and marble bathrooms, and they had borrowed and borrowed and borrowed against the equity, and they couldn't pay it back. And they were upside down, and they were making their payments. And because of all the other related things in the financial world that were triggered by these problems, because of the interconnectedness of all things on Wall Street, the government under Obama said, well, we really have to do something. Let's do a bailout of all the people who are on the verge of foreclosure. And there was a correspondent on CNBC Cable, Rick Santelli, who just ranted about this. And he was on the floor of one of the exchanges in Chicago, and he said to the traders, let me ask you, do you want to pay for your neighbor's mortgage with the extra bathroom?
Yeah.
He can't pay his bills? And it set off the Tea Party movement because people were just livid. at the idea that their tax dollars were going to be used to bail out people who had taken these risks and gotten in over their heads.
I mean, the insanity keeps going on. And as I said, I think we're started voting today. It'll be 30 days on that. Statewide, we have a $15 billion bond that they're trying to settle us with in California.
Vote no. This
Yes.
is Proposition 13 on your March ballot. Vote no. It's not the real Proposition 13 from 1978. It's a $15 billion bond measure. It just happens to be numbered 13 this year. Vote no.
Well, I guess California could really prove, since we have 30 days to vote in California, I guess we could prove the old Chicago, Illinois adage: vote early and vote often. Vote no. Vote no on Prop 13.
Vote no.
On that.
Yeah.
Not only that, we're facing a $750 million bond in around this area: Moreno Valley, Riverside, Paris, Norco, which is a Riverside Community College district on top of that. So we might be getting hit with a double whammy. But there's no on all bonds, tax increases, anything they're proposing until they show a slight ability to use the public funds to the best to the best of the public's interest, and not to enrich themselves and a few others. That's my take on it.
That's the truth.
You got about 30 seconds left to plug Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Go.
Join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association because it's the best organization in California, and it protects taxpayers. We are constantly out there telling people about these tax increases and warning people to vote no on them, and pressuring our elected officials in Sacramento to vote no on more of this stuff. And it's the best organization in California. Only $15 a year, and you get Taxing Times, the newspaper I write and edit, and it's worth it just for that. So hjta.org. Join us.
Thanks a lot for being on. We'll do it again next week, Susan.
Bye, Susan.
Thanks. Take care, Stephanie.
You too. We have a lot of pissed off people about the calendar. I'm sorry about the calendar, guys.
I told you, I don't know how to run anything like that. That's all.
It's cardboard and numbers, and they said just move the damn calendar. Move it.
Yeah, that's
all is correct with the world.
that's all way too complicated. I have
That's complicated. Oh my
yes,
gosh.
I have enough trouble pulling the paper one with the spirally thing in it up on.
Yeah, we still got 2018 over there hanging up. I'm just kidding.
Sometimes I know that has been the case on that, but no.
I'm on the calendar.
I hope you and a lot of others that haven't been paying attention to a lot of this stuff are, like they say, getting really woke about what's really going on, because it affects your daily life, and hopefully one day more people, any of us, will not have to suffer the tragedies and the consequences of many of these things that are going on, and we can avoid the pitfalls of what's going on.
And I just want to say there were some really great comments that I did not read out. Go on our stream, check it out. Go on our YouTube stream, add some comments on there.
And that's it. Yeah, we'll.
I love the debate. I mean, there are some good comments on there, and I love it when people are to see the other side too.
That's it. Maybe we'll have Eddie George and Jason Hunter on tomorrow on Thursday of that. So, but stay tuned. We'll have all the news and views, and everything is going up on IE Newswire.
And a new calendar.
And a new calendar, hopefully, on that. Not done by me.
If I feel like doing it after the show.
As we say, we usually do. We're gone.